Welcome to Still Plays Galaxy Viewers. We're back with a talk video. I want to start off by saying thank you to the Escape podcast. Thanks to Nev and Paul for having me. You can watch the stream there's a link down below. I had an interview that they invited me on with at the end, and we covered the Grand Arena Center that they put together. They do a lot of great work for the community. For this video, this is the 1,000 subscriber milestone video that I wanted to reveal some information for, just as a special thing to do, where I reveal how much I have spent in this game. I gave the community a week to put in some guesses, and as a reward for that, I'm going to send out a sketch to the winner. As part of this, I'll go over some qualifications and give some context around the competition, go over the results and the various guesses, break that down into advice where you can see how I spent when I did. There's usually reason and context for it, and then wrap up as we usually do with the free-to-play gearing of my roster. In the last talk video where I introduced that we were going to do this video, I did give the clue that I consider myself a free-to-play player. Now, a number of you probably missed that line, or we're finding out that we have some very different ideas of what that means, because some of these guesses were very surprising. In the interview with the Escape podcast, I did narrow down the range there to be less than $75. I couldn't narrow it down any further than that without giving it away, because the majority of the guesses were actually above $100. That $75 threshold narrowed it all the way down to 4 members of the community out of the original total of 15. There's 2 ways to consider the numbers in regards to what I've put into the game. There's my actual dollars spent, or there are the total purchases from Google Play credits from the Google Rewards, which is a survey app that I think most of you should know about. However, the Google Rewards do not represent an actual dollar cost to me personally, while they do represent an external input that are augmenting my play separate from a pure free-to-play player. Both I think are valid, and I'm going to reveal both numbers, but for the purposes of the competition, I'll be using the actual dollars spent, the cost to me. I've made 7 separate transactions, only 3 of them being actual purchases. Of those 3, 2 out of those 3 were further reduced in cost by the use of Google Play credit. Of the 4 other purchases, 2 of those 4 were reduced from Google Promotions, both discounting the cost by $2 and then being paid off by the Google Play Rewards balance. And here are the results. I have spent $15.28 on the game. So congratulations to Solasky. You were the only one with a sub $25 guess. On top of that, there's an additional $26.65 of added value to the game from Google Play Rewards, for a total of $41 of an external input into the game. You can see my purchases only happened during 2018 and 2019. 3 of those happening in December of 2019. Those are all related or prompted by the gas event. 1 of those in the lead up to the event, and the final 2 on December 29th. Those being to make sure that I unlocked gas. I was short by a stun gun and maybe 1 relic, and I just needed a little extra piece in order to make the difference in order to get that unlock. And for me, that was a worthy spend. If a gear piece or 2 was the difference between getting gas and not. Every one of these other purchases happened either during November or May, and what is happening during those months is the May the 4th event and the game anniversary events, and usually what coincides with those periods are double drops. So the crystal purchases were for me to take advantage of those double drop events and actually get added value out of any currency that was put into the game, whereas normally you're not experiencing that additive effect. And during this period of the game, I didn't have a crystal hoard. This was earlier on in the game. I didn't do as well in Squad Arena because it wasn't a game mode I really cared about as much. And we didn't have, I think during 2018, fleet crystals weren't a thing because I don't think we even had fleet nodes at that stage. So I was looking to get the crystals I needed in order to maximize those double drops. And during this stage in the game, the double drop events were actually really generous and actually needed some crystals because there was light side, dark side, cantina, mod, even Galactic War, all having double drops at the same moment and would be over the same weekend. So it wouldn't be staggered where you'd get Cantina one weekend, light side, dark side another weekend, all happening at the same time. So you would actually need a lot of crystals at a very specific moment in order to take advantage. These days I don't do that anymore because I have a massive crystal hoard, which allows me to go after those limited time characters if I'm close enough and make the difference, or anytime a double drop or a galactic chase or whichever time-sensitive event occurs, I have the crystals banked where I can always go after them. And I usually have enough banked where even if a number of them happen one after another, which happened at the beginning of this year with TIE Echelon, followed by MG100, followed by May the 4th, and just one after another having separate reasons to use crystals, even those sometimes have those gear packs that are actually really good crystal value. By having that crystal hoard, these are things I'm not concerned about anymore, so I'm not looking to augment even with Google Play credit these days. Well, congratulations, Selasky. I will be sending this sketch out to you. Part of this is just to motivate, encourage myself to sketch more. What I want is to be able to sketch like Dave Filoni. I love his sketches. You should really check them out. Maybe I'll throw some of those up on the Discord. He is a fantastic illustrator. Some tips for light spenders. If you're a whale or a kraken, please continue spending however you would like. I appreciate what you do in order to keep this game alive. It would not exist without you guys. For everyone else, just based on how I've spent in the past, this is some general advice. You want your purchases to count as much as possible, so you want to time them for moments where it matters and not just spend because the game is making you feel pressured to do so, or because you're close to unlocking like a Galactic Legend. Galactic Legends aren't time sensitive. For you to wait an extra week, that is meaningless in the time scope of this game. You can wait a week. Don't spend for those periods. Spend for like a gas event. You want to time for double drops because double drops are the best periods where you get more for whatever dollar spent. Any of these other periods like May the 4th or the anniversary when you have those deals, those are things worth considering. Other channels like Arnold do a much better job of saying if those packs have any actual value. Look to augment any of these purchases with Google Rewards or further discounts. Like you saw, I had a couple $2 discounts, reduce my costs, or even when I did spend, I would use Google Rewards to reduce how much I was spending on top of that. This is something you can constantly be doing to making sure that the input you put into the game is minimized. And now with these events, like Galactic Chase events, if it's this difference between unlocking or not, maybe worth doing. If it's the difference between 4 stars or 5 stars, maybe worth doing. That's what you're looking for. Or like with that gas event, if it was the difference between unlocking gas or having to wait until the next period, it's worth the like $11 I put in to get gas. And now to wrap up, as we do on this channel, the free-to-play gearing of my roster. This is the gearing that I did on June 14th and a little bit extra on June 16th. This was mainly Inquisitors and Radis, so after the Admiral Radis Marquis event and after Fifth Brother was added to a node. He's on a Cantina node, so I was able to farm him in 17 days, which is why Cantina nodes are so nice and why we don't get them too often. I know a lot of players get annoyed with them, like with the Star Killer farms, because they're doubling up, but they're really fast. You will be done with Cantina farms before you're ever done with Light Side, Dark Side farms. Now I'm promoting stars on 7th Sister and 8th Brother, taking both of them up to 5 stars. Outrider here, promoting to 5 stars. This is after Outrider was added to a node. Reinforcement ability makes it much more viable. MG100 and TIE Echelon finished the farms on those. At this Gear 11, Gear 12 level, they are usable. Completely worth using. They're not obviously not going to be as good, but they are better to have than not, so I encourage any player to just build out those pilots. Now taking 7th Sister up to Gear 11, just getting all those Grand Inquisitor characters to that level. Then I'll do some Gear 11 testing before I move to unlock the Grand Inquisitor next time that event comes around. But they're not great without that is too nice. They're not good at all without Grand Inquisitor. Jin here and these Rogue One characters, taking her up. She's slightly above average for a character in terms of gearing demands. Her ship ability is not incredibly important, so I never took her up higher. Cassian's really the more important pilot. Radis took him up to Gear 10. At Gear 10, though, he's the worst character in the game, arguably, for gearing, especially at one particular level, because at Gear 10, he needs 3 Kairos. No other character in the game needs 3 Kairos at 1 gear level. Now, overall, characters like Wrecker or Ninth Sister are a little more demanding, but they're not as bad at a single gear level. Now looking at a couple more of these characters that have been delayed a long time. Baze, as far as tanks goes, is not that bad. More Carbonte heavy, not really requiring too many stun guns from what I recall. Maybe just the 1 or 2. Chirrut actually was a little bit more demanding. And in terms of attackers, a little bit more expensive. When I started playing the game was when they were added. So I kind of missed the window. Bodhi I'm tempted by for testing purposes, but he's actually a very demanding character to gear. So it's going to be a bit before I have the luxury to gear him up. Taking Jin's ability, making sure I don't forget about that. Now the next thing that I do, that was the June 14th stuff. Now June 16th, what I'm doing here is just preparing for the cam mission, taking a few of these characters up to higher relic levels so I can contribute more to the guild, but I'm also trying to get low gear, or not low gear, but lowish viable team footage for these guys, and just trying to figure out what is sensible for me. You can do it at Relic 3, but the amount of RNG and mods that you need to make that work, it's theoretically possible. It's not practical. We will wrap it up there. Thank you again to the Escape podcast. Really appreciate being brought on. Check out their stream. It is in a link down below. And thank you again to everyone for helping me get to this point and reach that 1,000 subscriber milestone. I really appreciate it. And maybe we will do something again like this in the future. Maybe for the next 1,000, figure out something to do. Be safe out there, everyone, and be excellent to each other. This is Still Plays Galaxy of Heroes.